Welcome to the Comedy Reset Spotlight. This is the place to be if you want to hear from some of the most innovative and exciting comedy creators from around the globe. On this podcast, you'll hear from a variety of guests who are pushing the boundaries of what comedy can be. If you're looking for fresh perspectives and new ideas, this is the podcast for you.
Episode 22. Ephrata, Pennsylvania comedian Pete Blumenthal.
When did you first start doing stand-up comedy?
I started stand-up comedy when I was challenged by Tony Melendez to take up the Standup University course given by Rich, Peter, and Steve. It was the greatest experience of my life, and that was back in October of 2018. My first paid show was in January the following year.
What made you want to become a stand-up comedian?
Purely on a challenge is why I ventured into this beautiful thing called stand-up comedy. Thank you, Tony Melendez.
Who were some of your influences?
30 some odd years ago, my wife and I saw Jackie Martling at Governor's, and we sat front row center. And we got spit on with the butt of his jokes and had the time of our lives. In fact, Jackie was so cordial, he felt so bad after accidentally spitting on us that he gave us some T-shirts, lots of souvenirs, and what I still use to this day, which I value, is my 8-track tape of his performances that I still use in my player. Wink, wink. I also loved Robin Williams, naturally George Carlin, and I'll never forget Rich Walker, Peter Bales, and Steve Lazarus, and of course you, Rob. Thank you.
What was your first time on stage like?
My first time up on the stage was the scariest thing I ever did in my life. I didn't know when I was going until like a minute or two before the show started at the Brokerage Comedy. And they started to play the music. Let's get it started. And then they told me I'd be following Peter Bales. That was the beginning of a wonderful hobby that I brought up. Love it.
What's your favorite joke?
My favorite joke is probably a callback to my initial joke, which was kind of based on my former employer on Long Island. And my wife and I get done having sex, and she looked up at me and she said, "Hey, Pete, can't you do any better?"
What's the worst heckler experience you've ever had?
I've yet to be heckled. Whatever. I haven't done it much. All I can say is my heart went out to someone who was pretty new at the time, and she was heckled at Governor's. And I just felt bad because you know you're out there, you got your pants down and stuff, and it wasn't too nice. And she felt so bad after the show. My heart went out to her. Then I saw a headliner out in McGuire's in Bohemia, and she was playing the room nicely, and she was going around, and this one kid said, "I don't think you're very funny." And my heart went out to her, and she turned around, she looked at her watch, and then she turned back and looked at him, and he started cursing him out and went off, and it just like threw her completely off guard. And I felt bad. And when I met her after the show, I just shook her hand and I says, "Listen, God bless you. It's a good thing."
What's the best gig you've ever had?
Best gig I ever had was actually my first paid show at Governor's in January of 2019. A lot of people came to see me, and they were sitting front and center, and I was scared. And I also went pretty early on that show. All I can say is that I didn't bomb. I was scared poop. I kind of like examined my first show at the Brokerage when I went too fast. It was too nervous. And I heard some real giggling in the audience, and that was the drug. And that was like, that was the hook, that first paid show, and it made me love it, and I sure miss it.
What's the worst gig you've ever had?
Honestly, my graduation from Standup University in October of 2018 was probably the worst gig I have had, but it was also the best. I just was so nervous I went too fast, and I kind of used it to do better subsequently. Again, nobody's perfect. Believe me, I've had jokes that didn't go over well, and I just like rolled over it. I didn't let it get me down. I like trying different things, and I don't like to. I'll do the same joke, the keepers they say, but I like to change up a little bit here and there. But again, I haven't done it much. It's not for me to say, but it's just the best and the worst was my first graduation gig at brokerage in Belmore.
How do you deal with stage fright?
How I deal with stage fright is by the time I get on stage, my jokes are not funny to me. I practice them reading into my cell phone, watching the times to try to get it down to a certain time with like 5, 6, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. And then I play it back and but that's how I deal with it, because I am so fearful of the bomb, which I know I've been told many times that to embrace the bomb, and it's part of the education, so to speak. I still haven't bombed, I don't think, I'm not as scared as I was the first few times.
What was the most unexpected response you've ever gotten to one of your jokes?
The most unexpected response was when I started out and I had some friends sitting off the front of the stage, and I heard one of them cackling laughed at, and she was like cackling. I was like, it's just like, I didn't realize that it was that funny. And that's the drug that gets people to continue with this wonderful craft. And then someone hollering in the background, "Go Pete!" on another show, one of my friends, my best friend's son. And that was just like the hook. Those kind of reactions kind of hooked me into this great craft.
How do you prepare for a show?
My preparation for a spot is purely, I might go through my routine 100 times into my cell phone at minimum. And then I'm looking at the times. That is how I prepare. I'm not too big. I understand the importance of the open mics to get you used to holding the microphone and delivering. But the thing that got me was the lack of response from other comedians, because they were basically the only ones there other than the bartenders and maybe a couple of stragglers. And they don't give a hoot about your stuff. They're practicing theirs. So there's absolutely like no response. It's almost like doing a Zoom show.
What's the best advice you've ever been given about stand-up comedy?
I'd say the best advice about stand-up comedy is simply to have fun. At first for me, it wasn't fun until I heard the audience response. Again, because I practice ad nauseum on my cell phone, it really wasn't funny. But when you go up there and you hear the laughter and whatever, and the clapping and the cackling from some of your jokes, that's the thing. And it's all about having fun.
What's the worst advice you've ever been given about stand-up comedy?
I can't say I've gotten any so-called worst advice given about stand-up comedy, because you take the good, you take the bad, and what have you. I guess I could say the worst advice or the best advice I think would be kind of like have fun. The worst advice would be someone saying you can make money, because you got to love it. You got to put a lot of effort into it. And these people that run around and break their butts, going all over the place to try to chase a dream. God bless them. That takes a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, and my hat's off. So I'd never say I've gotten worse advice, because the community of the comedians, it's so goddamn supportive, and I've never seen anything like it. And that's why my education at Standup University, the 6, 7, 8 weeks, what have you, I value that more than my 4-year education at the landed tuition, Hofstra University.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about stand-up comedy?
The biggest misconception, I would say, is that the people think it's easy. People think, oh, I can go up, I can do it, and I'm funny. But the thing is, when you get up there, you almost like you're standing up in your birthday suit. And by golly, if I've seen people, and there's a bad joke here and there that don't go over well, but anybody who thinks that's easy, I challenge them to do it. You go do it. My son tells me, you're not funny, Dad. I said, why don't you go do stand-up comedy, dude?
What do you believe is the key to success in stand-up comedy?
The key to success in stand-up comedy that I see is probably practice, 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 which I'm sure everybody says. But when you start out in it, and again, it's very supportive. And then Rich Walker and Peter Bales would say, use a little index card and put keywords on this so you could take a peek down on the chair that's sitting under the water. And that is the key. I believe. I mean, there's the keywords that help you remember a joke, because it's hard to memorize. I'm not a George Carlin. I'm not a Robin Williams or a Jackie Martling or a Rich Walker or a Rob or anything that can do it off the top of my head because it's memorized, or Carrie Carabas. These people are brilliant, and it's a matter of practice, 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 and that little index card on this chair is priceless help.
What do you think is the biggest obstacle that stand-up comedians face?
I imagine from the outside looking in, the biggest obstacle that stand-up comedians face is the competition for stage time and the running around, and how labor intensive, how money intensive it is, and time intensive it is for comedians like a Steve Perillo and Jeff Bosey and Rob and Peter Bales and Rich Walker. You got the people that are working hard to chase a dream, and then you got the people that are so good at what they do, and I would imagine thinking that you can make a living or a good living. It's so hard. There's just so much competition. But I got to say, my hat's off to all the guys and girls working out there and breaking their asses trying to chase their dreams. There's nothing wrong with that.
What do you think sets stand-up comedy apart from other forms of comedy?
I think stand-up comedy is different from other forms of comedy is because like you have comedy shows where you have the wealth of the pursuit of laughter is spread amongst multiple people. Stand-up comedy, you're one person. You're out there. You're standing naked, and you live and die by the joke. And that's what's so great about stand-up comedy. It's just like if you can do that, you can do anything.
What are the benefits of stand-up comedy?
I'd say the benefit of stand-up comedy to me, and I can only speak for me, is that the little bit of success that I had, and I hope to maybe have again out here in Pennsylvania, it gave me the courage to change my life. It gave me the courage to pick up and get out of my comfort zone of my whole life in Long Island. And I went out and bought a house just for the hell of it here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. And if I didn't do stand-up comedy and tell this to people that I sell to, who are also my guinea pigs, if I didn't do stand-up comedies, I wouldn't be living in Pennsylvania. So I owe a great deal to the Standup University and Rob and Mike Dillon and all these wonderful people who just, giving me the opportunity to better my life. And I'll always love all you people.
What's the most important thing for a stand-up comedian to remember?
The most important thing for a stand-up comedian to remember is, I would say, just enjoy it, have fun, and look out at the audience, and try to pick on people that you could focus on that are really enjoying it. I haven't been doing it long enough to learn to play with the crowd, although that comes with experience, with time. But my feeling is, just like get into it, dig into it, and just have fun while you're doing it.
What do you think are the best techniques for dealing with hecklers?
Again, I've seen hecklers at shows. I haven't had the misfortune of dealing with hecklers, but my feeling would be, don't let them get you off script. Don't let them get you off base. Just you might want to say ha 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 or something like that, or like whatever it is. Just roll with it, get through it, and don't let them ruin your set.
What do you think are the biggest mistakes that stand-up comedians make?
I'd say the biggest mistake a comedian would make would be probably letting the heckler ruin the show, number one. And two, probably too much blue humor, too much cursing and whatever. I have one keeper that has it's so cute, and I would actually almost do it here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I might be a little careful with the Amish or Mennonites if they were to come to see it, because he can't curse in front of them. But by golly, I'd almost have to use this one thing, the F word, the F and the A. But the cursing, the too much cursing, it gets old fast.
What is the best way to learn stand-up comedy?
I say the best way to learn stand-up comedy is take a course by Rob Chaffee, my three genius friends at Standup University, Rich, Peter, and Steve. That's the whole thing, because these guys are so good at what they do. They're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant, and they will set you off for success. And they will. The passion that they have, the effort. They'll stick with you, and they'll make sure you'll succeed, whether you know it or not. You're working hard, but these fellas and the ladies and that offer the workshops and whatnot, they're priceless, and you gotta tip your cap and love these people.
What do you think is the best way to improve as a stand-up comedian?
I'd say the best way to improve as a stand-up comedian is probably just getting out there and, as much as possible, and learn from your mistakes. Okay, learn from and just don't let them kill you. My brother taught me options trading, and I learned from mistakes. I learned from $7,000 mistakes, $10,000 mistakes, and I never made them again. So practice, and you'll learn from your mistakes, and don't let your mistakes kill your dreams.
What has stand-up comedy taught you about yourself?
Stand-up comedy has helped me dig deep and kind of come out of my shell. I used to be a shy kid when I was going right through college, and still until I was the first. I was probably the only Jewish bartender working at a raunchy gin mill in North Belmore, a place called Redheads. Back when I met my beautiful wife, I kind of came out of my shell, and comedy is like life. It teaches you. It's a magnificent opportunity to find out who you are. And by golly, as I said earlier, it gave me the courage to drop $250,000 in cash and make a move.
What motivates you to keep performing stand-up comedy?
Shame on me for not doing stand-up out here in Pennsylvania. I got lots of ideas, and I want to have fun again. If I have to go a little distance, I'm not worried about that. They have a place in Bucks County that I saw Maureen Langdon. She was trying out some new stuff. And then she took feedback. She's just a wonderful, nice person and a good person. And I'll never forget when she asked for feedback and she would say, "Oh, tried and true," when we spoke about, her keepers, her regular stuff. But what a wonderful human being. And, there's so much, because comedy in Long Island is different than comedy here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. And I have enough new material with a little bit of keepers thrown in there that I think I could do a set out here.
What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about doing stand-up comedy?
As far as someone thinking about doing stand-up comedy, I'd say give it a shot. Take a course. Take a workshop, and then you could decide if it's for you or not. It's not for everybody. It's not easy. It is not easy stuff, but just take a course first, and they will probably plant the seeds and help you do something that probably is going to be the best thing you ever did in your life.
I've been your host, Rob Chaffee. Don't forget to laugh today. It's good for you. Comedy Reset Spotlight is a podcast that brings you today's freshest and funniest comedy creators. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to hear more.